So utterly pathetic, Donald Trump using the Justice Department to try to block a deposition of Donald Trump. He talks a tough game, but he's always scared to sit for depositions. In past cases, we saw him invoke the Fifth Amendment sometimes. We've seen him, when Michael Cohen was involved in a lawsuit where Trump sued Cohen, Donald Trump dismissed the case against Cohen when Cohen sought his deposition. When Donald Trump has sat for a deposition, it's been like horrible. Like you actually see how addled the guy is and what a liar he is, and he can't even get out sentences. And so now Donald Trump's using the apparatus, though, of the Department of Justice to try to block a deposition in a case that's brought by members of Congress, former members of Congress, Capitol Police, in connection with Donald Trump's involvement in the January 6th insurrection. You may recall that a civil case was filed against Donald Trump back in 2021. It's against Donald Trump in his individual capacity. And Donald Trump tried everything to block this case, to get this case dismissed, to claim that it was part of official acts. He was doing everything to get this case dismissed. There's a number of cases that ultimately were consolidated with the caption Barbara Lee, who's now a mayor of Oakland. She used to be a member of Congress versus, I've interviewed her before, versus Donald Trump. And now Judge Mehta issued a ruling basically saying the condition to stay discovery against any defendant or third party in these matters is no longer existing, with the court having ruled on defendant Trump's immunity motions. Accordingly, the parties in these consolidated cases shall meet and confer by May 1st, 2026, which is Friday, and come up with a discovery plan. And so get going. It's a case. You've delayed this, Donald, since 2021. The judge is saying all of your challenges where you claim this immunity and that grant basis dismissed. We've rejected those. We're going. So you're a litigant. Just grow up, sit for a deposition. And then Donald Trump filed an immediate emergency motion saying, no, I can't sit for a deposition. I'm too busy. I can't involve myself with litigation right now. I'm doing things like attending golf tournaments at Mar-a-Lago or Doral, Miami, that people aren't showing up to, or building golden ballrooms or triumphal arches, or putting my face on people's passports or national park card photos. And I'm focused on a UFC fight at the White House. That's what the American people who are struggling with say, we need a UFC fight. I'm busy in all of these things. What would make you think that I got the time as the president of the United States to participate in litigation? I'll get to that point in a moment. I'm sure you're all probably saying, doesn't this dude like sue somebody every other day? And wouldn't he have to go through discovery in the cases that he sues in his individual capacity? Bingo. That's a great argument that I think the plaintiffs will be arguing and saying, what are you talking about? You sue everybody. You clearly have time to sue the Wall Street Journal and this paper and that paper and this one and this media. I mean, how many lawsuits has he filed in his individual capacity? You sued the IRS for $10 billion. Which is really the taxpayers. You have all the time for this. So you've been a litigant. What do you mean you can't sit for a deposition? So the Department of Justice, though, they're intervening. The DOJ is intervening. The case is Barbara Lee, again, now the mayor of Oakland, former congressperson, that she was injured in the January 6th insurrection, as were many members of Congress, emotional distress and all of the harm that was caused. And, it's her versus Donald. But Donald Trump says, no, the DOJ is my law firm, so the DOJ is going to jump in. So here's what the DOJ filed. At this juncture, nothing further can or should happen in this court in this case, least of all disruptive and untenable discovery directly against the sitting president of the United States. Then they go on to say, meanwhile, moving ahead with further discovery now would saddle the president and the government with the very types of burdens that courts have refused to countenance when immunity questions are unresolved. The government and Trump's attorneys would have to monitor ongoing discovery, participate in depositions, and keep abreast of all discovery developments to ensure that the case does not develop in a misleading or slanted way that causes prejudice to their positions. The actions of the president that give rise to Governmental liability would remain front and center during such discovery, regardless of if it's sought from a party who does not assert immunity. Courts across the country have rejected such burdens, even of lower level government officials. In sum, whether to try to stay further proceedings does not present a close question at all. And it says, that holds to the President of the United States, who shouldn't have to sit through any discovery. I want to bring in Harry Litman from the Talking Feds YouTube channel, Talking Feds Substack, and Talking Feds podcast. Now, Harry, Trump has advanced this immunity argument, which he's lost at all levels. He's lost in this civil case. You know, and this idea of I'm burdened, I'm saddled with discovery, and I shouldn't be, I'm the president of the United States. I have to focus on executive branch stuff. I mean, to me, it really falls flat, is an understatement, when dude's out there suing everybody and he's the most vexatious, rapacious litigant maybe in the country right now, other than some 5150s that file lawsuits against everyone, you know, who have the vexatious litigant designation on them because of the constant lawsuits. I mean, you know, you literally had federal judges calling Trump a vexatious litigant, or words to that effect, at least in the Southern District of Florida, when he was sanctioned nearly $1 million before taking office again. And he hasn't stopped. And here's the thing. I'm with you. Want to make the arguments, Harry, dignity of the office, you know, the president, you know, should be treated certain ways, then behave like that. And the moment you behave like a vexatious litigant, to me, you lose, you know, I mean, there's so many things that Trump would do, lose the trappings and presumptions, but I don't know. I just think it's wild. Just grow up, sit for a deposition. You know, I mean, no one wants to do it, but just do it. Sit for the deposition, respond to document requests, get it over with. And if you think you're going to win the case, win the case. Stop the whining, man.
There's another little problem here, Ben, which is pretty sure a unanimous Supreme Court already has ruled against his very claim. Bill Clinton, in Jones v. Clinton, Paula Jones was suing him civilly, and we knew that there was a principle that you can't go against a president criminally at the time they're in office, but civilly. So, and Clinton said the same thing. So busy, so vexatious, such a distraction. I think it was 9-0, Justice Stevens saying for the court, too friggin' bad. You're the president, but you're an American, and everybody has their right to a day in court. Now, it's certainly true here, by the way. So this has been a important lawsuit because it's brought by the very people he injured and who have clear standing in a way that even a starchy court and this Supreme Court might try to push back against. We're talking about officers who, you know, who were part of the melee, who then now soon to be released and have their convictions wiped clean. Proud Boys and Oath Keepers never just completely pummeled. And surely it was true that there was injuries among some of the individual members of Congress. So that's why this was from the start a solid, real suit. They're standing. And on this point of immunity, okay, first let me say, as Mehta said, that's been decided, pal. It's one thing to say that immunity gives you a right to question it. It's another to try to stop the music every single time go up to the Court of Appeals, as he's now trying to do. And on the merits, back to Clinton. Clinton didn't have any presidential immunity for a long since past charge of sexual harassment, essentially, though was under a federal law. Likewise, the whole issue here, and it's been decided. Remember, this is actually somewhat related to the criminal case, even after the Supreme Court threw it all out on immunity grounds and said all that's left is the things he doesn't have immunity for. The DOJ came back, considered it carefully, conservatively. Those charges stood because there's nothing, there's no presidential immunity, civil or criminal. And then they've tried to say the Westfall Act, but it's going to come to this question. Is he acting as president when he's totally fomenting the mob, whipping them into a frenzy and causing them to harm officers and members of Congress? I don't think so. And Mehta doesn't think so. And that's the reason he has to stand for deposition. So that's what's really missing from their claim, as if it's so easy. No, the things they're saying are a problem have already been judged by a unanimous Supreme Court. And this Supreme Court's not going to change that, to say, you know, you've got to stand for civil discovery. And, you know, this is a very, he's acting as a candidate completely outside his official capacity and fomenting insurrection, to beat it. So the Justice Department has said, we're going to come in and we're going to try to take over the case. That means that they're going to try to say he's immune, and we have it under the Westfall Act. We don't have to detail what that means, but it means they would try to play the immunity card again, but they've lost it already, and you don't keep going up and down. As you say, it's a 5-year suit now, and it's brought by people who truly were injured, and there's no principle that because you're the president, you're too busy to do stuff. So yeah, I think he'll keep saying emergency. And of course, we just have to say, when he goes up to that court, the Court of Appeals for DC, there do seem to be a couple judges, at least one, who have yet to see a claim that would help Trump that they haven't liked. So you always have to, drop that asterisk. But, immunity here, it doesn't apply because of what he was doing and how far afield from even the outer perimeter, as the court puts it, of his official duties.
Everybody, make sure you subscribe to Harry Litman's YouTube channel. It's called Talking Feds. Search Talking Feds on YouTube. Subscribe. Also, he has a Substack and a podcast called Talking Feds as well. Subscribe there. Also, subscribe to the MeidasTouch YouTube channel. Talking Feds on YouTube. Thanks, Harry.
Thank you, Ben.
New Meidas merch. Head to store.meidastouch.com today and get yourself the best pro-democracy gear and show your support. That's store.meidastouch.com.